Hello, lovelies. Welcome back to The Tangent. It's season 2, episode 4. And in today's episode, I want to bring you inside our latest running experience. We entered the Festival of Running 50 kilometre months ago, as one does, and we were hoping to use this event to qualify for next year's comrades. But that didn't happen. So stick around to hear how the race unfolded, very much not as planned. Buckle up, lovelies. We're taking a ride through some of the quickest corners of my life on wheels. I'm Katie, and I've been doing this disabled thing since day one. This is not your typical disability education podcast. Every tangent, every detour is a chance to look behind that curtain of disabled life, unravel the threads of confusion, and discover those, whoa, that actually makes sense moments. Eventually, this is the tangent, where laughter is the map, curiosity is the compass, and understanding blooms even in the craziest corners. Hit subscribe, grab your headphones, and get ready to be surprised, because the way to understand why is to embrace the wild, hilarious how. So let's do the thing. The first question I have right now is, when in my life has a plan ever actually gone to plan? I think that if that ever happens, I won't really know what to do or how to function. Like, what do you mean I don't need to pivot or have 12 backup strategies? What even is that? How does that feel? Let me know if that is how your life works. I can't imagine that being standard. But I guess privilege shows up in many different ways. So back to the race, right? So let's give some context. This event is the first one that we had scheduled to do after comrades. And funny story, it was actually my first time back in Bruce. Bruce is the name of my running chair, so remember that for next time. Which is arguably not ideal. Doing 50 kilometers as a quote recovery run is objectively ridiculous. I can see and appreciate that. We had plans to do little runs, like actual recovery runs, leading up to the festival. But then life happened and we couldn't do those. And time passed, and the thing about time is that it doesn't really consider how ready you are for it to pass. It just does. So race day arrived and we were entered, and so we were running. Important info for this race. So the Festival of Running 50 kilometre is a 5k loop. So you just have to do it 10 times. So that sounds really simple, right? We also had 4 teams from our club, Katie Sports and Rec Club, running in the 5k relay. So it was a pretty exciting day. Everybody was like up for it and had yes, and whatever happened, we were gonna be there for the vibe. Yay! So race day started with a 4:30 a.m. wake up call, which is not my favorite thing, but I chose to be a runner. So early morning wake up calls are just a part of life now. We left home at like 5ish and made our way to the prom, and we're very happy that that was where we were going to be spending the rest of our day. And I had mentioned to Shukri as a throwaway comment, but also as something to keep in mind if we did need to do anything about it on our way while he was driving, that I had a headache. But I was working on what the reason could be for that. Remember, we always have 12 backup strategies for every strategy. So here's the list of possibilities that I had gathered while in the car. So the first was pretty much zero sleep. I don't know how I feel about this though, because I feel like you're never really well rested the night before a race ever, but I guess it's helpful to get at least a couple hours in there, and I didn't really do that. So that's option one. And then the other option that is always a possible culprit is my bladder. I really felt like that could have been the one this time, because we hadn't emptied my bladder since we put my catheter in the morning, and so that made sense to me. But we could sort that out when we got to the race. I also forgot to take my bladder management meds, but that's okay. Because if I don't take them, my bladder still works. It just doesn't really listen to me. So we can deal with that later. It's not like a life-altering, life-ending issue. And then there are many other options that I had initially mostly ruled out. And we'll get into those later. So we arrived literally at the perfect time, which doesn't often happen, because as soon as we got there and I was in my chair, there was a rush of cars and suddenly nowhere to park. So yay. We got to the tent and we collected our numbers, because we decided that we weren't gonna go before to get our numbers, because life was happening and it was busy. So that was also weird for us, because normally we go and we have our numbers and we're ready, and we avoid potential drama early. But we didn't do it that time. So it's all good because we had no issues. This race is run by Hewitt, and we love Hewitt's Running Club so much. They are always super supportive and community driven and solution oriented, and we love that kind of mentality. So that's amazing. So we go into the day thinking we are winning today. It's a winning attitude. And then before the briefing started, we go behind the tent for some privacy. And we empty my bladder. And I still had a headache, but when a full bladder is the reason, it sometimes takes a while to have that work itself out. So I was still chilled about the headache and us finding a solution to that and not panicking early. This one, the race started at 7 a.m., which is pretty late for runners, but that's okay. And we started 5 minutes ahead of the field, which is beautiful. It allows us to settle and just get into the day without having to manage 100 other runners. So that's always nice. The first loop was solid, and the weather was beautiful for running, cool and overcast, no wind, and we felt like everything looked like it was working out in our favor. And we were on target at the 5K mark. But then things started to go downhill for us pretty speedily. So to qualify for comrades, we needed to finish the 50Ks in 6 hours and 10 minutes. I was not really holding my breath for this outcome, but we can always believe that things are possible, even when it's a slight possibility. And we had kind of decided that this race would be kind of more for mental stamina training and like grit development. So let's keep this in mind for the rest of the story, okay? So 2 kilometers into the second loop, the headache I was experiencing was so bad, and I was so nauseous. And at that point, I had added hydration to the list of issues. So I was drinking more water, because that usually works pretty quickly, but not this time, fam. So I removed it again from the list. And also I added food, like eating, because I didn't eat, but that's like normally I don't eat before we run. Like normally I'm fine. And Shukri had said to me like, why we should have like made more time earlier to eat, and I was like, no, because I did not eat because we didn't have time. I didn't eat because it was not in my plan to eat before we ran. So us having more time didn't make any difference. So we decided that the best solution available to us was meds. But I needed a banana to take them. That's a whole story in itself. We can get into that later. But this meant that we had to wait until we got back to the start of the loop, because that's where the like support tent was for the organizers, and like that's where all the food was. And we had bananas in the car, but not with us. So they had bananas. The best plan was to move towards the bananas, so we could take the meds and then move on. It was funny because Shukri asked me like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And he looks at me and he's like, you don't look okay, bud. Which is really a comforting thing to say. But we moved on. So we got to the 10K mark, the end of the loop, start of the loop, however you want to feel about that. Did like a F1 pit stop. It was actually quite impressive if you watched it. Like, I was impressed with us. And we got the meds in my body, and continued with our plan of like running the rest of the 40Ks. So the beautiful thing is that they worked in like 6 minutes. But it was a blessing and a curse. Here's why. We also decided that antihistamines were a good idea, because I'm low-key allergic to outside. Which is unreal to experience as like somebody who does endurance outdoor activities. But we've made life choices, and this is where we are now. So we took antihistamines and anti-nausea things. Here's the problem I experienced. The antihistamine did nothing for me. So then I had multiple reasons that my eyes were blurry. But the nausea left within 6 minutes. But then we realized that the anti-nausea meds also make you drowsy. So I don't know about you guys, but have you ever tried to run 40 kilometers when every cell of your being just wants to take a nap? I don't know. It's one of the most incredible challenges I have ever experienced. And I'm all here for listening to your body, but that is a fine line when you are an endurance athlete. Like, you don't always know that your body is telling you the right thing that you need to do. And we tend to have a mantra when things get tough, and it is this. Are you ready? Yeah, we can do anything for 1 kilometer. That's like, you can do anything for 1 kilometer. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's just 1 kilometer. And then you reconvince yourself later. I just didn't think that we would be activating this mantra so early and for so many hours. But we did it. Shukri was living in his own struggle bus with his legs not listening as he wanted, and a whole array of other challenges. He was testing out because, like, we were doing the mental survival thing, but he was also testing out some new, like, nutrition and fuel strategies. So that was good. We were not in an amazing place emotionally, but remember, we had decided early on that this was a training run where we can work on things that we don't get to, because generally you only reach the dark places at a late stage in the race, and you only have to push through for a little bit. But lucky for us, this weekend we found the darkness early. So we had 40 Ks to work through, to remind ourselves that we are athletes and we do actually like running. I think one of the challenges of doing the loop races is that you have so many opportunities to just stop, like whenever. If you are running a point-to-point race, like, generally you're like in the middle of nowhere, so you have no option but to keep going, or you're over it, but like the easiest thing logistically is to just keep going because you have to get to the car and the other plans are more admin, so you just keep going. But with this 5K loop on the Sea Point Promenade, we were literally passing our car every 5 kilometers. Are you so serious? Like, I have never had to do so much convincing of myself that I'm doing a good thing, that this is a good idea. I think we were both so deep in that hole, but neither of us would say anything about stopping out loud. But I promise you, both of us were thinking it hard. Like, it was crazy. On the bright side though, you guys, Shukri and I agreed afterwards in our post-race debrief that the initial response to either of us throwing the idea out there of stopping is a definite no. Because we've learned that these are temporary thoughts, and we can't let temporary thoughts dictate what we do. That's just not good. That's just not okay. And at some point, while we were running in silence, we synced in a food struggle because both of us were not able to get whatever the food we were trying to get to out of the bags that we had. And it was a moment of frustration that we realized at the same time. So that was beautiful. We'll say that. And there was a moment as well where Shukri said, like, oh, we still have, I think, 2.5 hours to go. I said nothing, but I think my aura just spoke to him, and what I was saying in my brain, sometimes you don't need to say things out loud for people to receive them. But what I was thinking was like, that is just that's just unacceptable to me. I don't know how to align those numbers with how I feel, and I don't know if I can do this for that much longer. That is so many minutes. What are you even talking about? But then we moved past it, and then it was okay. And while we were still combating my I guess medically induced exhaustion, I realized that this is also like brought on ourselves, right? So I can recognize that. But I had like such an unreasonable reaction to the thought of needing caffeine. And remember, like, I live on coffee, and I hadn't had any that day. So maybe I was having, like, withdrawal or something. But I was, like, insane about that. I need caffeine. Like, we need to get shots from somewhere. Or, like, if somebody has, like, a caffeine tablet. I don't know. Guys, I was delirious. And we didn't get caffeine, which is fine. So I settled for electrolytes. And electrolytes are actually really helpful. I think we vastly underestimate those guys. But we live and learn, right? So an interesting thing that happened at around loop 4 is that we forgot how to count. I promise you, when people asked how many loops we still had to go, crickets, silence, just blank brain fog, to be honest. I couldn't remember even how many we had done. So, like, don't come and ask me to do maths and subtract now. That's unrealistic. And we were entirely relying on my watch to tell us what was going on. So if that malfunctioned, or we didn't have it, or the battery died or something, I don't think we would have made it. Guys, it was wild. On the brighter side, it was really amazing to have the relay teams there and supporting and running alongside us. It was so great. Our runners in our club are special humans, and I appreciate each one of you who was there and supporting and like just around, because it really does make a huge difference. And one thing I learned within the team is that sometimes sharing thoughts of strategies is not a bad thing. But around loop 8-ish, I think, we had stopped for potatoes. I was also entirely motivated by potatoes on that route, and I will not apologize for that. But Shikri asked me like how my headache was, and I kind of said like, it's fine. It's fine because I have decided, this is gonna sound unhinged now. Get ready. My head is fine. Like, I still had the headache, guys. It didn't go away. But the drowsiness that my meds had given me did kind of go away by the time we had finished the race. So I was awake afterwards. Ridiculous. But I had decided that my head was fine because I felt like the pain was coming from my neck, and then it was a third pain, and we can't do anything about my neck pain while we are running. So because we can't do anything about it, it is fine. And then we both had this thought early on, like loop 3, guys, that we could have asked someone who was coming, like one of the relay runners, to bring pain meds with them. And that would have solved every issue. But we just didn't realize that. So sometimes you have to figure out what the right thing to say to your partners would be. That would have been a helpful one, but we live and learn. So when we finally made it through our last loop, like to our own surprise and like excitement, the organizers told us that we had to do another loop. That's a hard no, but I was like, you know what, if it is 45Ks, maybe we're wrong, but like, I'm pretty sure we did 50. Shoku's telling him like the buddy says it's 50, my guy. And I was totally okay with stopping right then and like living with us having done 45. It's still an ultra marathon. Like, it still counts. Our bodies know that we did something hardcore today. But there was no way that we were running any further than that, whatever that may have been. And it was 50. There was just some like technical issues with the timing and like us starting early and all of that. So we ran 50Ks, you guys. We ran 50Ks. And when we were like struggling to get to the tent to like regroup ourselves, I think realization hit that we were in deep pain, and it was pain that we've been ignoring or like compartmentalizing for like 8.5 hours, and so it got a bit intense. And Shukri got my wheelchair from the car, my motorized chair, because we had planned to stay for a little bit afterwards. And we had put my pants on, that we brought with us, because at that point it was pretty freezing. And we just took stock of how bad we were gonna feel over the next few days while we recovered. So that was rough, but some final thoughts. I think ultimately it was so hard, but so good. And maybe some people will say that we are masochists, and that's fine, but maybe that's what it is to be an athlete. And I think it's just a totally different mindset that athletes have and endurance athletes have. And I'm really happy that we did that. Granted, in a few more hours than I initially appreciated, but happy nonetheless. So it was an intense experience, but a good one, and I'm excited to take on whatever the next one is.